Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our agenda briefing tonight for the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder for our agenda for the July 22 meeting. I declare tonight's agenda briefing open at 7 p.m. And on behalf of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. As there are no members of the public in the gallery this evening, the disclaimer regarding our live streaming will not be read. However, the recommendations contained in our agenda are officers' recommendations only and should not be acted upon until Council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. The resolution of Council should be confirmed by perusing the minutes of the Council meeting at which these recommendations were considered. Members of the public should also note that they act at their own risk if they enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of Council's decision. Tonight, councillors, this is a chance to ask questions and not provide statements nor debate. Should your input be directed towards a statement or debate, I will wrap you up a lot quicker than probably what you anticipate. That's not a promise nor a threat. A record of attendance tonight. Deputy Mayor is here this evening. Good evening to you. Councillor Bodica is not present tonight. I know Councillor Bodica has had some health concerns of late regarding her knee. Councillor Winner is in attendance tonight and also attended our grants recipients ceremony just a few moments ago alongside the Deputy Mayor. Councillor O'Donnell is here. Missed out on the grants evening tonight. Great food. Councillor Turner is here this evening, also attended, and so too Councillor Viskovich. We have an apology, Mr C, I believe, that's come through late from Councillor Brownlee. Councillor Johnson also did give an apology today. CEO is present tonight. Our Director of Engineering is present, Louis Camporelli. Our Executive Manager of Finance is here tonight, Zandra, also acting in a role as well as Acting Director of Commercial and Corporate. And also joining us tonight in an acting role is Acting Director of Development and Growth in Paul Lees. Welcome alongside. Executive Manager Governance and Risk Services Francis Liston is here, and so too Governance Officer Jamie Boys alongside IT Technical Systems Analyst Lava Kush Arabuthu. We also have an apology from Director of Development and Growth Alex Weiss. No leave of absence. There are notations of interest that have been received, councillors, for next week's meeting. Are there any further declarations for next week? No. I have one from Councillor Turner regarding item 15.23. Thank you. The proposed development lot 21B Ward Street for full circle therapy, declaring a financial interest. Her son works for the building company. And also Councillor Carla Viskovich for the road resurfacing project, which is 15032. Also having a street that is being repaired under that program. So a proximity is declared for that. No further interests, councillors? Thank you. You've got a week to also submit that before next week's meeting. And also, as tonight is an agenda briefing purely on a question-based agenda, then you are able to remain in tonight. We'll go through our agenda for next week. 15.1.1, our annual budget for 24-25. The recommendation is present, councillors. To speak to that one, we welcome our Acting Director of Corporate and Commercial, also the Executive Manager of Finance, Andrew Curnow, to speak to that one this evening, noting the 15-odd recommendations that are part of that one. Over to you, Acting Director.
Thank you. So, 15.1.1 is the adoption of the 2025 budget. There is a slight amendment to the attachment, which we'll go through before next week. It doesn't affect the reports, it's just the rates note. There was a couple of figures missing, which have now been put in. Key factors within this report. So we estimate a 0.5 million surplus for FY 2024 compared to a budgeted deficit of 0.4 million. We're showing a surplus of 0.3 million for 2025, with 101 million capex spend, which is funded by 31.5 million of loans, with the key capex projects being approximately 37 million on roads, renewals and upgrades, approximately 19 million of sewerage works, 9 million of new plant and plant renewal, 6 million on the airport, 5 million on the youth precinct, another 5 million for the Oasis building improvements, and 4 million for lighting. Total income is expected to be 10% higher than 2024, with rates revenue expected to be 10% higher than the 2024 rates revenue. Fees and charges income is up 7% higher than 2024, that being a 4% increase to the fees and charges, and an increase in expected revenue, with the largest being the airport passenger fee income, with the expectation that we get more passengers through the airport in 2025 compared to 2024. Employee costs are also up 16%, with an organisation-wide pay rise of 4% and a recruitment drive to fill vacant positions to help the city achieve its 101 million of CapEx projects. Materials and contracts are 3.6 million higher due to delays in projects, with some 2024 projects rolling over into the 2025 financial year. So that's the 2025 budget in a nutshell. And the recommendation speaks there through the relevant requirements of council to approve, including the waste charges, which were amended today.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor O'Donnell.
I don't have to stand. No. Did we go out and advertise the budget for any and request any submissions on the budget?
Director? Acting Director?
Sorry, I got my back to you.
Through the Mayor, no, we don't ask for submissions on the budget, but we do ask for submissions with regards to the proposed rate increase, to which we received 19 submissions.
Oh, supplemental. Yes, that's the one I was after. On the 19 submissions, were there any contentious, or were any of them pro putting forward a positive light on it, or was it all negative?
Councillor O'Donnell, we considered that at the special council meeting last week. That was part of the attachments of that. Majority of that feedback was probably not submissible or admissible under the submissions process that we're after.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Turner?
Yes, just through the Mayor, our CapEx program, I think it's really good that we've got so much there, but I would say it's somewhat ambitious. So hopefully we can pull that. Do you foresee any issues there? Because it's very ambitious. We may not be able to do it, but we don't want it to blow out, because obviously the cost will then rise on those projects, as we've seen on other projects.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Through the Mayor, I don't foresee us spending any more than 101 million.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? Mr CEO, if you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. There's a couple of minor amendments, councillors, to the actual recommendation. They are highlighted up on the screen. We'll provide a copy to all councillors. If you just scroll back up a bit, if you could, please. The first point there under point 1, it's just clarifying it's 10% rate revenue increase rather than a 10% rate in the dollar increase. Scroll down. The remaining ones are just a number of figures which have just been amended to reflect what's actually in the fees and charges and been approved by council. So it's just clarifying those. It doesn't change the overall rates or the budget at all. It is just making sure the figures are accurate against what's in the adopted fees and charges.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, any further questions? No? Thank you, Acting Director. You can still stay there if you like for 15.12, rates, debtor, financial hardship applications.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So 15.12 is a financial hardship application. So this report is requesting Council's approval to write off the interest and legal fees for the ratepayer mentioned within the attached confidential attachment, in accordance with the City's financial hardship policy, to the sum of $27,371.57. The remaining funds from the settlement of the sale of the property will be allocated against the outstanding rates debt owing, being $32,969.45.
Thank you, Acting Director. And any questions? Councillor Turner.
Yeah, just through the Mayor, I believe that this property is actually basically a derelict property that hasn't been lived in for some time.
Acting Director.
Through the Mayor, I'm not aware of the status of the property, but I am aware that it has been sold. It settled last week. And as per regs, when a property settles, if there are rates owing on that property, the city claims what's owed to them. So we have already received these funds, but due to receiving the financial hardship request, we're proposing that we reimburse the ratepayer for the legal fees and the interest.
Thank you. Councillor Turner?
So basically, we're just writing off our additional costs. Yep.
Yes. Any further questions, councillors? No. 15.1.3, rates write-off report, June 2024.
So this report relates to the sale of 20 properties that went to public auction on the 30th of April 2024. 8 of these properties that were sold at a value which was equal to less than what was owed to the city at that time in debt. So that consists of the rates owing, interest, legal cost and fire break debt. The shortfall for those 8 properties totals $90,354.22. There is one more property that remains not yet settled, and the estimated write-off of that, so it was sold at public auction, but there's a disagreement on the value from Landgate. And the estimated write-off of that is $4,694.26, which is, once it's been settled, is within the CA's delegation to write off, because it's less than $5,000. All of the write-offs will be actioned in the FY 2024 financial year. And then recommendation 3 of this report requests the transfer of 3 properties from ownership to the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. These properties have been repossessed from the ratepayers, but they were not sold at auction due to being located on floodplains.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions on that one? 15.1.3. No questions. Thank you. 15.1.4, proposed update to schedule of fees and charges.
So the 2025 schedule of fees and charges have been updated to reflect changes in statutory fees, which were not known to city officers. So this was adopted, the original was adopted on the 27th of May 2024, but some statutory charges have been released post 1 July 2024. So it's bringing those back with those amended. The airport officers also requested more information be included for 2 of the airport landing charges to clarify the charges for the airport users. There have been a small number of waste management charges which have also been adjusted, and they're shown within the second attachment outlining the amendments made to the council adopted schedule from the 27th of May. So the recommendation is to approve the amended schedule and approve the CEO to advertise the amended schedule.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? No. Thank you. 15.1.5, accounts payable for June 2024.
Excuse me. There's nothing significant to note here, so it's showing that the total spend for June 2024 was $6.3 million.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? No. Thank you. 15.1.5, SOFA.
So this is the statement of financial activity for May 2024. The significant movements consist of the rates movement due to increase in back rates and interim rates. Operating grant income is less. That's due to the Department of Social Services Community-Led Support Fund grant income not being spent in this financial year, so it's been put to the balance sheet and will be recognised in 2025 as income. Fees and charges have come in slightly less than expected due to sewer tank disposal income, commercial waste down at Yarry Road, sewer headworks and less airport advertising fees than expected. The interest received on investment came in higher than budget by approximately 373 grand due to better interest rates. Other revenue is higher than budget due to revenue from sale of land, and it's been partially offset by property lease income being down due to the vacant shops on Hannon Street. Profit on sale of assets came in 270 grand less than budget. That's mainly due to assets not being sold or replaced as expected. Employee costs are $2.2 million higher. This is due to more vacancies being filled than we originally budgeted for. Also, I do believe the original budget assumed that employees would be used to complete CapEx projects where contractors have stepped in. Therefore, there's more employee costs within the OPEX doing maintenance works. And then, yeah, there's more positions have been filled within the Oasis, Health and Economic Development. Materials and contractors is only slightly higher, and it's mainly due to timing. Should probably be on par by 30 June. We've spent 1 million less on contributions, donations and subsidies. So that's, again, the community-led support funds. So they'll roll into next financial year. Interest expenses have come in less than budget, with loans not being taken out like the original budget assumed. The non-cash amount, that mainly relates to the depreciation saving due to CapEx coming in less than budgeted. Capital grants, that's down due to delays in the projects. Proceeds on asset disposals relates to the actual funds we received for the trades-ins of vehicles. Payment for property, plant and equipment is down approximately 2 million due to the Oasis building works, youth precinct works, admin furniture and airport bus terminal projects. Payment for infrastructure is down 6 million. That's mainly due to contractor delays for road resurfacing. That's 3.7 million. Sewer upgrades of 1 million. Parks, mains, irrigation and pipeline works. Payment for investment property, that relates to the endowment block renewal works. And there has been delays with that due to contractors and obviously the heritage listing status of the endowment block, resulting in timing delays of planned works. And the transfers to and from reserves will be corrected in the month of June.
Thank you. That was actually 1516, the Statement of Financial Activity. Councillors, any questions on that? Very comprehensive report. Thank you, Acting Director. 1517, Elected Member Training 23-24 and Continuing Professional Development Policy. Francis Liston, Executive Manager of Governance and Risk Services.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So this report just is in relation, excuse me, this report's in relation to the mandatory report we need to put up in relation to training records. So there's 3 attachments to this report. One is those training records for the past financial year, as is required by the regulations. The second is a summary of the expenses that we've incurred for elected member travel and accommodation, and also attendance fees for training or other events where there's been a fee. That's provided just for the information of council, transparency in relation to what those costs look like. We've obviously had some councillors have now not returned to council. That includes those particular councillors for the travel period between the 1st of July and the 21st of October, and then for the current council as well. The final attachment is an updated policy. So one of the particular issues that we have identified over the recent months is that there's an anomaly in the wording of the current policy, which we're seeking to amend, and that's in relation to the voluntary travel and continuing professional development expense that's currently in there. There's some confusion over the wording in terms of how that applies. What we have done in terms of the administrative application is treated that as only applying where it's additional attendance at a professional development event or training that is beyond what is required. So if it's a WOLGA required attendance at training, or if it's something that council has required an elected member to attend, those costs are in addition to the voluntary budget. You'll see through the travel and accommodation register that there's some that have come to quite a high amount, and so we just need to make sure that's clear in the policy and have affirmation from council that we're applying it in the way intended. The other significant change to the policy is not particularly significant, I don't think, but it does pick up all of the voluntary internal training that the city is now providing for elected members. So what we're proposing to do is include those internal training and development opportunities as part of our reporting, and including those in the required report that we'll put up in July, but also in our annual report, which will reflect which councils have attended those particular internal development opportunities, as well as the required training.
Thank you, councillors. Item 1517, any questions? Councillor Turner.
Yeah, just through the Mayor, on the training register, it's got the training register for 23-24, but it's not very, I don't think it's very clear, especially if a member of the public looks it up. It says, it implies that only Councillor Viskovich and myself have done the training, which isn't correct, because there's current members of council that had already completed that training, and that's not noted anywhere. So I think that Is there a way that could be looked at? Because there's several councils that have done that training. It doesn't look like they've actually completed that mandatory WOLGA training.
Through the Mayor, we might put a little notation or an asterisk or something which highlights which was required during the year and which councillors didn't have a required training requirement.
Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor, is the capacity just expanding on Councillor Turner's inquiry and question just then to add potentially a compliancy section underneath which outlines if the councillor is compliant or not with their training? I think that might address that matter a little bit easier. The second question I have is in relation to the second attachment. Is that just for elected members' purposes or for public as well?
I've put it up as an open attachment for the purpose of public transparency as well.
There's a couple of errors I've identified in it. Would it be best to send them through to yourself?
Yes, if you could please, and what we'll do is amend them accordingly.
Wonderful.
And I'll put an updated attachment through.
Thank you very much.
Agenda.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Councillors, any further questions? Just one from me. The recommendation does say to receive the register of elected member completed training for 21-22 and 22-23, but there's no attachment for that. Should there be an attachment for that?
That's an error that I didn't pick up. I'm sorry. Thank you. It should say the 23-24 financial year.
So item 1 of the officer recommendation should not be relevant?
Amended. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
The wording of item 1 should be completed training for 23-24 financial year. Yep, thank you. I've missed that. Thank you.
Roger. Any other further questions, councillors? No. Thank you. Stay there. 15.1.8, mid-year review of council meeting schedule. Still with you, Executive Manager, Governance and Risk Services.
I've got a slightly different order in what I'm looking at. I'm sorry. So this...
Sorry, is that mine?
No, it's mine. What's on my docs on tap is in a different order. No, sorry. This particular report in relation to the council meeting schedule was put up in response to discussions that we had late last year in relation to council's preferred schedule. At that point in time, we were proposing moving towards a fortnightly meeting cycle, and council asked to leave it at the 4-weekly cycle, but bring it back for further review 6 months or so in. So that's the purpose of this report at this stage.
Any questions on our meeting schedule, councillors? Does it suit everybody? Are we happy with that? Status quo looks like it's being put forward there. Thank you. Francis, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
I was probably just going to ask, is there potential for a different, a different cycle in that maybe would it be week 1 and week 2 with the meeting week 3, giving us week 4 for external presentations? So just a slightly different, but...
Would that be then, we've already got the 2 recommendations there, Mr CEO, that would be an alternate recommendation for next week from what has been provided, is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, we can draft up an alternate for council to consider.
Deputy Mayor, all good? Yep, thank you. No worries. No further questions on meeting schedule. 15.1.9, risk, appetite and tolerance.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, this report touches on conversations that we had informally with council earlier this month in relation to council endorsing a risk appetite position and a risk tolerant position, which will further inform decision making both with the administration and also with council. So the report puts up both of those statements as attachments, and I've completed both of those documents following information and discussions that we have had with council. So the risk appetite statement is suggesting a position that is a moderate level of risk being council's appetite, and the risk tolerance position was formed with recommendations based on council's independent votes in relation to what each councillor felt. And I've basically tallied those up and formed a recommendation based on the majority for each of those categories.
Thank you. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Francis. 15.2, development and growth. We've got 4 items here under the directorate. The acting director tonight, Mr Lees, please make your way forward. 2024 Goldfields Environmental Management Group Conference is your first item this evening.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. The Goldfields Environmental Management Group has applied for a single-year sponsorship under the city's event sponsorship program to the value of $18,115 in-kind support to cover the cost of the Goldfields Arts Centre venue hire and associated costs, staffing costs for the proposed conference. The city had previously sponsored the event for $7,754 and a 21 for 5. At that time, the sponsorship value did not actually cover all of the real costs associated with the sponsorship. The funding request for 2025 event is higher than previously requested due to the increase in venue hires and because staffing costs were not previously, as I said, accurately captured. All additional income received will be reinvested into environmental research within the Goldfield region, with workshops being provided in 2026. The recommendation, of course, is that the council does sponsor the Environmental Management Group for the value of $18,115 in-kind support to cover the costs associated with the use of the Goldfields Arts Centre venue and staffing costs for the 2025 Goldfields Environmental Management Conference. The conference is particularly important. It has 350 to 400 delegates in Kalgoorlie-Boulder from across Western Australia with high-profile guests, including the WA Minister for Energy, Environment, Climate Action, who has attended and spoken to the conference before. It's a particularly important conference in regard to environmental management within the Goldfields region.
Thank you, Acting Director. Councillors, any questions on that sponsorship? Councillor Turner.
Yeah, just through the Mayor, I see that we've got, as part of that, 3 Goldfields Arts Centre staff for 3 days, and I know it's a bit like asking how long is a piece of string because we don't know what will happen by May next year, but our staffing at the Arts Centre is currently, that wouldn't be an issue at the moment. We've got enough staff.
The event has been checked through with the Arts Centre and there's been no issues arisen in regard to that.
Excellent. Any other further questions, councillors? No? Thank you. Was there a council? No? Thank you, Acting Director. 1522 Home Business, 24 Melba Street in Piccadilly.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is another application for a home business for the preparation, cooking and packaging of sweets, cakes and biscuits. It's proposed that the home business will operate from the existing residence and they'll use the existing kitchen. The hours of operation are Tuesday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, Sunday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. As I say, all baking will be done internally in the residence. The site has capacity for 2 vehicle parks from Melba Street, so there'll be no impacts on the local environment. It is deemed that the impacts of the proposal will be no less than the surrounding residential uses, and the recommended conditions are those standard conditions which would be attached to any such application. So the recommendation is that that the conditions restrict the hours of operation. They ensure that Helen Buckley, the operator, is in fact the one on the premises doing the work. She must remain the occupant of the property. It restricts the hours as proposed in the application. She cannot employ more than 2 persons, and it can only have 1 customer at any point in time. Historically, we have not found these types of applications to be an issue within Kalgoorlie-Boulder.
Thank you, Acting Director. Any questions, councillors? Councillor O'Donnell.
Just a point of clarification, a question. The officer recommendation number 1, the operation of the home business is restricted to the applicant, Helen Buckley. Does that mean that she must be in residence there during those hours of operation, 7 days a week?
Acting Director.
Through the Mayor. What that condition does is actually ensure that she cannot transfer that approval to any other person.
Thank you.
Councillor Turner?
Yeah, just a further question through the Mayor. Officer recommendation number 5 says that they can't have more than one customer there at the same time, and customers have to make an appointment. This could prove problematic if somebody turns up late to pick up their delivery. Could that be amended to maybe 2 customers, just in case? Because there's enough parking for 2, and I couldn't see 2 being a problem, but I'd hate them to get into trouble because somebody turned up late.
Acting Director?
Through the Mayor. What we found with these types of applications is that we haven't actually got people queuing. It's usually only 2 or 3 or 4 customers per day, very low level of customers, and the two car parks allow someone to arrive and somebody to leave. But that usually isn't an issue. They're baking sweets and goods, and they're being collected, obviously in sort of some wholesale form to be used. So I don't think you're getting mums and dads dropping in for lollies and cakes.
Thank you, Acting Director. No other further questions? Thank you. 15.2.3, Councillor Turner has declared an interest in this matter. However, as we're not making a decision this evening, is still able to stay in the room. Proposed development, community purpose, therapy centre at Reserve 31464, lot 1094, 21B Ward Street, Lamington.
Through the Mayor. This is the replacement of the old building, which is owned by the city for a brand new construction for Full Circle Therapy, who holds a lease from the city for 21 years. The new building is within the general location of the old building. Councillors at its meeting of 25th of March 2024 endorsed the use of adjacent Reserve 42837 for spillover parking, should this be required in the future. But for this particular application, in terms of the ratio of those providing therapy and the number of car parks, Full Circle has advised that the parking that they have allocated on the laneway is sufficient for their operation at this point in time. At the meeting 24th of June, Council authorised the CEO to advertise the proposed demolition of the building, and if there were no submissions, for the CEO to authorise to proceed with to allow for the demolition. That time period has ended. There's actually no submissions received, and the city at the moment has an application for a permit for demolition of that old building. So the application itself is for the demolition of the existing building, the construction of a 487 metre squared single-storey new brick building. The hours of operation 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. As I said, there are 8 allied health specialists providing individual consultation. Access will be via the existing sealed right-of-way, and there's provision for 17 car parking bays. What is required is the ratio of 8 to 2, so 8 therapists for 2 car parks. So there's actually an additional bay being provided. The conditions as proposed are standard conditions as you'd expect for this form of development. And yes, any questions?
Thank you, Acting Director. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to clarify what this development must substantially commence within 2 years. What does it mean by substantially commence?
Within WA, the laws around appeals have been quite specific in terms of what that means, and it actually doesn't mean that it must be complete. Substantial commencement has usually been extensive digging of footings or extensive works for site preparation and preparation for building, but it usually involves some form of activity within the site greater than just clearing a site. it is a standard condition through the Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillor Winner.
Well, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor, item 5 of the officer's recommendation in regards to operational hours are limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. from Monday to Friday. Is it a requirement of the city to have that clause in there, or is that from the applicant themselves, given that they have a absolutely wonderful nature playground area? I could see capacity, especially with this development, that they may want to expand those hours to better support our community. So I just needed to see if that was a city-imposed restriction, or is that something that the applicant has put through?
Through the Mayor, that was the hours provided by the applicant, and that is the hours associated with the therapy use being undertaken of the site. That wouldn't in any way restrict, should Full Circle be happy with it, people going in and using their facilities, playing and other things. It is actually for the core business of Full Circle, which is therapy.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. No further questions, councillors. 15.2.4, a DAP application, proposed additions and alterations to an approved workforce accommodation number 36, Great Eastern Highway.
Through the Mayor. This is an application which I understand that Council has seen previously. It was approved by DAP, the Regional Development Assessment Panel, on 15th of August 2022. It has been completed and they have undertaken some minor changes to the proposal, and this is an application which is obviously for Council seeking their endorsement to those changes before the RA is forwarded to the DAP. So the changes they propose is, so the application was for 66 single-storey transportable units, communal facilities including office, dining room, kitchen, gym and landscaping, and a number of other things, an acoustic wall, general internal infrastructure and 44 car parks. The amendment sought is the addition of a 3 metre by 6 metre ablution block, the addition of a 3 metre by 3 metre security hut, the addition of a 2.4 metre by 12.2 metre maintenance building, the addition of a 2.4 metre by 12.2 metre locker building, that is for the storage of occupants' belongings. They installed an airlock in the dining building, the relocation of the south-easternmost accommodation unit, a reduction in the number of laundry units, and a reduction of 5 car parking bays to accommodate the bin storage area. The bin storage addition in size has obviously resulted in them doing a full assessment of their requirements for storage of waste and requiring additional area for that. The removal of the laundry is obviously an operational matter in terms of the way that they undertake laundry facilities and cleaning on the site, and we believe that the reduction of 5 car parking bays will be a result of them using small buses on the site, which we actually think less car movements is actually a positive to the development. The application only changes the approval in the ways which are outlined and doesn't substantially change the overall development. And we're asking that Council endorses the recommendations in the RA Responsible Authority report for this proposal.
Thank you, Acting Director. Noting, councillors, the officer recommendation, the applicant has requested, and with the development value over $3 million, to be going straight through to JDAP. Any questions? Councillor Turner.
There's not, looking at that site plan, there's not really anywhere else where that bin storage could go anywhere. Is that, Mr. Lees? It really doesn't look like there's anywhere else they could have put that storage area anyway.
Through the Mayor, that's correct. Yes, it is. It's a lot of development on the site.
Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the Mayor, was a reduction in parking allowance provided as part of the original application, and is this an additional reduction they're requesting now on parking?
To be honest, I can't comment on that in terms of what the assessment was of the original application. What we're dealing with through the Mayor here is an approval that's in place and an amendment to that approval. But anecdotally, we haven't had any complaints from the operation of that facility.
Mr. CEO, just to add any commentary to that?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, we'll double check that and provide a response before next week's meeting.
Any other further questions, councillors, for the Acting Director? The 4 items. Thank you very much. 15.3 Engineering. Our Director of Engineering is here tonight. 15.3.1 Air Conditioning Tender. This is in relation to our City Admin Building on Hannon Street. Director, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council's asked to consider submissions for the tender number T19 2324 for the air conditioning of the current admin building. The current air conditioner is 25 or 26 years old, and normal air conditioning for this sort of space lasts between 10 and 15 years. So council's asked to award the tender to tenderer B. It all goes through and comes in under budget.
Noted. Thank you, Director. Any questions? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanting to know if we had, so the 2 submissions that were received, I may have missed it, but are they local companies or did we have anyone local apply?
Both tenderers were non-local tenderers.
Councillor Viskovich, follow up.
Did we go out to any local, we're not allowed to go out to, where did we advertise the tender?
Tender is advertised statewide, and so local tenderers are encouraged, and they also get a 5% reduction if they're a local tenderer.
Any further questions? Councillor O'Donnell?
In relation to no one local putting in a tender, is the job classified as too big for our local air conditioner providers?
Director of Engineering.
Through the Mayor, from my understanding, yes, that was the case. It was quite a large air conditioning project, and there's a few moving parts to it.
No other further questions? One from me, Director. Obviously, noting your available balance of $38,000 post that, is there a contingency within the proposed budget as well?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, normally there's a 10% contingency. In this case, we've had both tenderers come up to have a look at the project and walk them through it, and we're comfortable with the $38,000 that we have.
Thank you. No other further questions, councillors? 15.3.2, stay there, Director. Road resurfacing program 24-25, noting a proximity declared by Councillor Viskovich, having a street being part of the program. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council's asked to note the prioritised road resurfacing program for 24-25 as listed in attachments 1 and 2. The report aims to confirm the road renewal priorities for 24-25 financial year. This includes 53 kilometres or 17% of our urban roads to be targeted next year.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Viskovich, noting that you do have an interest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if there was somewhere that the community can see why they believe roads that are looking like they don't need repairing but are being repaired. Is there somewhere they can find a very quick little step-by-step of how roads are done and why roads that don't look like they need to be done are being done?
Thank you, through the Mayor. In the past, we've done a number of updates through our media on why and how we do roads, what the process is. It's quite lengthy in regards to it's just not what's on top, it's also what's underneath as well. And that's probably the hardest thing to explain to people when you're just looking at what's on top.
Councillor Viskovich,
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
again noting your interest.
Thank you. Is there somewhere on the website we could direct the community for those that come to seek advice from us why roads are being done?
Yes, there's your say through our website.
Any further questions, councillors, on our road resurfacing program? Director, what's the total spend of your 24-25 again?
We have on the resurfacing 22 million. Total road expenditures closer to 33 million when we include a couple of priority roads.
And that does not include footpaths?
That does not include footpaths.
Thank you. No other further questions? Councillor Winner?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director, given up until 23-24 we had achieved the sealing of about 55% of our sealed road network, which is over 205 kilometres worth of road sealing, how many more kilometres are we anticipating to seal this financial year coming?
53 kilometres or 17% more.
Fantastic, thank you.
Councillors, any other further questions on our road surfacing program? Thank you. 15.3.3, the Kalgoorlie 2050 cycling strategy.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. Council is asked to endorse the guiding principles of the proposed Kalgoorlie 2050 cycling strategy and receive the proposed action plan for the future budget and planning consideration.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Mr Director, do we get a bike to test out some of these particular areas?
Give me 18 months and then it's a good time to ride a bike with this.
Thank you, Director. I do like a little bit of humour from time to time. 15.3.4, South Boulder Wastewater Treatment Inlet Work Structure.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So Council's asked to consider submissions received for tender T18 23-24 for the South Boulder Wastewater Treatment Plant Inland Works Structure. The proposed new inlet structure is to accommodate new screens for both the IDEA plant and the lagoon system and a grid collection pit. It will also be equipped with an accurate flow meter capturing flow into the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Winner?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director, are we anticipating this project to be completed during this financial year?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Just through the Mayor, just to clarify, this is how we've changed it, the way we've staged this. So now this is our stage 0, is that correct? And then we'll go hopefully get some funding for stage 1 to proceed.
Director?
This is actually not part of the water bank. This is part of the South Boulder Wastewater Treatment Plant Inlet Works.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Director, will this have an impact on the amount of water that comes in or the flow of, you mentioned that the flow is obviously going to be better metered, but having this particular structure renewed, will this give us a better flow in and probably stop some backups in the South Boulder area?
This will improve our insight into the amount of water we've got currently coming in. At the moment we're close, but it's not perfect. This will improve that exponentially.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just again, a question of local tenders. Do we have a local tenderer as part of these 3 options?
Unfortunately, in this case, there was no local tenderer. Once again, it's a very specialised works, so no local tenderers were decided to tender.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. No other further questions, councillors? Thank you, Director. 1535, Goldfields Oasis Recreation Centre roof refurbishment project, something that's been underway for a little while, not just recently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So council's asked to consider the submission for tender RFT 025 23-24 for the Goldfields Oasis Rec Centre roof refurbishment project and award the tender as Tender A.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. Again, about the local. Do we not have anyone from the local area wanting to tender on this project?
My understanding is I think we had 18 downloads and only one tenderer, and that was not a local tenderer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So 18 downloads, is that saying that we are potentially making it a little bit difficult for the tendering process, or are they not necessarily local downloads?
So 18 downloads, sorry, through the Mayor, 18 downloads is the number of companies that have downloaded the documents to see whether they fit into the scope of providing the services.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was originally going to steal Councillor Viskovich's question, but I do have another question as well. So just through the Mayor, I'm terrified at the thought of 55,000 tech screws being used on that roof. Are we looking at potentially shutting the car park or looking at running the roofing portion of it during periods when sporting activities aren't on? I can just see a lot of potential issues there.
Thank you, through the Mayor. That is correct. So once this is awarded, we'll then work out the best time to do this, noting that we've got the basketball court or netball courts, we've got the administration and the gym, and then we have the pool as well. So they'll all be done in a staged way to not affect anyone using it underneath.
Thank you, Director. Any other further questions? Thank you. Thank you, Director. That rounds out your items. Item 17, confidential items. We have nil. Date of our meeting will be the 22nd of July 2024, and I'll close tonight's agenda briefing just after the CEO has one question. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, note there is potential for a late item to come through in relation to, just trying to remember which one it was now. I think it's the planning one. In relation to the proposed solar park at the airport. That's going through the assessment at the moment and will have to be signed off before the end of the month, so we will bring that to council next Monday night. Just so you're aware.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Please note that, councillors. Nothing else to close off the meeting further. It's 7:53 p.m. Thank you for your attendance tonight, councillors and elected members, and also our staff, noting that we do have 2 staff in acting roles tonight. Thank you very much for your adding to tonight's agenda briefing, and we will sign off tonight from our online stream. And